Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 243 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and a two-time author. Our second book is called From Letters to Leaders, Redefining New Member Education and Leveraging Belonging to Eliminate Hazing. So go and pick that up on Amazon today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there's nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, let me tell you all about our next guest. I mean, I just was totally blown away when I met her. And so I need to go straight into this introduction. Ellie Shefi is the very definition of tenacious, having overcome a lifetime of adversity, including abuse, domestic violence, homelessness, cancer, and a myriad of other health issues that have seen her defy the doctor's death deadlines for over 2 decades. Ellie has mastered mindset, resiliency, and resourcefulness, and she has dedicated her life to the empowerment of others, which I absolutely loved about her. She is a host of the Free by Design television show and You Are Not Your Scars podcast. So she is regularly interviewed in publications and on other podcasts and television shows, including NBC, ABC, CBS, the New York Times, Forbes, Entrepreneur, Yahoo News, and the LA Tribune, just to name a few. She's also founder of the Made to Change the World Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that equips and empowers the next generation with the tools, the resources, and strategies they need to create the lives, communities, and world they envision. Welcome to the show, Ellie.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a joy and a privilege to be here.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm so glad that we got a chance to connect and we got a chance to get you on the show because I think what you're doing is absolutely incredible. And you have so many facets to you. I mean, it's astounding to me when I think about all of it, but I love how it's come together. You decided on the University of Texas for your undergraduate experience. So I know our listeners are wondering, why did you choose the University of Texas?
Well, it's actually funny because I started college at a really small private school in Southern California and very quickly realized that, like so many college students, I made the wrong choice. That was not the school for me. And after finishing my first year and being completely miserable, because all the things I thought I wanted, all the things I thought I needed, all the things I thought would make a great college experience, I absolutely hated. And so I entered the workforce because I didn't have any more money to go back to school at that point, and I had gotten all the scholarships at this one institution. And so when I decided to walk away from the institution, there went my scholarships. So I found myself through a series of events running a business in Texas. And I always knew that ultimately I wanted to go to law school. And in order to do that, I knew I needed to finish college. And since I was in Texas and I could get in-state residency, which made UT super cheap, because, you know, this was 20 some years ago, a long time ago, then I found myself with the amazing opportunity to go to an incredible school at in-state tuition. So it was a windy road to get there, and I did not get there because in high school I picked wisely, but I couldn't have loved it more. It was an amazing.
That's great. Well, there's that tenacity coming out. Eventually you find your path, and you know what? Sometimes things just don't work out the way you thought that they would. I mean, that's okay. And that's why I have these conversations, because I'm trying to show students that, you know what? We make the best plans that we possibly can, and then we try things, and then you know what? Sometimes it doesn't work out. So, okay. So you try something else. It's not the end of the world. It's okay. And eventually you obviously found the right path. So it all worked out.
It all worked out. And one of the things that I love to stress to college students is we don't have to stay just because the train has left the station, just because I started college at that institution, doesn't mean I have to stay there and stick it out.
Right.
Okay, gone are the days where, well, that's the way it is. You made your choice. You got to live with it. It's no, if the choice doesn't serve you, if it doesn't align with you, then don't just continue on that path because the train left the station. Get off the train.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to finish it just because you started it. You can create a different path.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads us to the next question is you spent the last 20 years defying doctors' death deadlines. And you've overcome so much. I mean, domestic violence, homelessness, cancer, and so much more. I'm just wondering, how do you get into this mindset where you literally walk through hell and then you come out as happy as you are presenting yourself today?
Yeah, it's a choice. And that is an unpopular answer, but to each and every one of you out there, happiness is a choice. Okay, things are going to go wrong, things are going to go wonky, life is going to happen. And the most amazing thing about that is that no matter what is going on externally, no matter what is going on in the world, we can control what happens internally, meaning you can control your thoughts, your feelings, your focus. So if you're struggling and you're thinking, well, actually, I can't control my emotions, they're all over the place, things are going on and I'm struggling, you can control your focus, because what you focus on is what you're going to find. So what's wrong is always available, right? That's what our brain is hardwired to notice and to find. We have a brain that is hardwired for survival, and inherent in that is being hardwired to spot the danger, to keep us on heightened alert. But it's a quote unquote muscle. It's a practice. It's something that all of us can develop to train our focus to find the good in something, to find the lesson in something, to find the blessing in something, to find the growth opportunity in something. That is a choice that each and every one of us can make. Control your focus and train yourself to find the good.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, I certainly am a glass half full kind of guy. That's always been the way that I've operated. And you know what? I think what you're saying is that, hey, we can't always control everything that happens in our life external, but we can control how we respond to things. And so it's that response and looking for growth, looking for the positive in everything that happens, and that we can control. So I like that.
And there's a saying that I love to teach people called control the controllables.
Yeah, I agree.
So when you're feeling out of control, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're unsure of what to do, when you're feeling like the walls are caving in, then a great question is, what can I control right now? My focus, my thoughts, my biochemistry. Can I get up and change my state? Can I take a walk? Can I go for a run? Can I have a dance party in my living room? Can I do something to change the biochemical response and reaction in my body? Because that is going to shift your state.
I love it. Now, some other things that you're into, you're an attorney, you're an entrepreneur, you're a #1 international best-selling and award-winning author, you're a speaker, a strategist, consultant, coach, philanthropist, and a publisher who provides all of her clients with these practical, easy to implement tools and strategies that generate results for them, which is fantastic. But given that resume, people expect certain messages from you. I know, like when you're talking to an attorney, you're talking to an author, a philanthropist, they expect certain things from you. And I'm sure our listeners have expectations on them as well, from their parents, certain expectations, maybe from social media, maybe from their religion, for example. So how do you align your message with you and not what everybody else expects you to say?
So I learned a long time ago that what anybody else thinks is none of my business. It goes back to control the controllables. And I have another little saying that can come across a little harshly, but it works for me. and people I teach it to. And that's not my circus, not my monkey.
Hmm.
And so that is a saying that I use when someone else is expecting something of me, or when I am finding myself expecting someone to do something, expecting someone to respond a certain way, expecting someone to be a certain way, expecting someone to grow and learn and do and act a certain way. When I'm expecting something of others, or others are expecting something of me, I just remind myself, no, not my monkey, not my circus. I'm on my journey, they're on their journey. I'm only responsible. The one and only thing in the entire world that I am responsible for is me, period. That's the only thing I have control over. Parents know this, you can't control your kids. Teachers know it, you can't really control your students. You know, you could try, but ultimately the only person that you can control, the only person you're responsible for is yourself. So you're responsible for your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your actions, your reactions. You're responsible for your expectations of yourself. And so when other people are putting expectations on me, I just go on my inward and say, no, not my monkey, not my circus. I'm going to do me. I'm going to be me. Because here's the thing, and it's so hard, especially when you're in college and today's social media and sororities and fraternities and all the things, right? It's so hard. You want to be liked, you want to fit in, you want to feel accepted, you want the approval of your friends, you want the acceptance of your friends. But here's the thing, you can only really be you. Because when you're trying to please someone else, when you're trying to be someone else, when you're trying to do something that doesn't actually align with you or have a message that isn't authentically yours, people spot the BS.
Yeah. 100%.
So,
Yeah, you got to be authentic. I mean, they say that for speakers too. I mean, I can't get up on stage and talk about something that I'm not passionate about, because the audience is just going to sense it. They're going to
yep.
smell it on me and be like, this guy doesn't believe what he's saying right now. Right? You have to have full conviction if you're going to be up there.
Yeah, authenticity, transparency, conviction, alignment. So the fastest way to be aligned is to be authentic.
Yeah.
Be you. Whatever you're feeling, you know, on the good days and the bad days, just show up fully as you. And the people that are supposed to be in your life, the people that are supposed to be your friends, will celebrate you and support you. And the people that aren't won't. And that's fine. You don't have to be everyone's cup of tea. Like, you're for you. It's your journey.
You know, that's taken me a long time to come to realize. That's taken me a long time, because you're right. I mean, especially in college, like, we all want to be well liked. We're all hardwired that way, that we want to be well liked. But you know what? I was treasurer of my fraternity, and I had to tell my fraternity brothers no when they came to me looking for money, trying to spend fraternity budget, you know, and I'm like, no, we have a budget and I'm going to stick to it. I'm sorry. But the answer isn't going to change. But now I've created an enemy because I'm trying to do the right thing. But I want to be well liked. And so there's always that push and pull, you know?
Yeah, it definitely, it takes some practice, right? It's not comfortable at first. So it's not, you know, fairy dust and rainbows. It's not comfortable. You are going to lose some friends when you are authentically you. But then here's the thing, they weren't really your friends to begin with.
I know, but that's hard. That's hard to admit. Right? You want those people in your life, but sometimes it's just not a fit any longer, and it is what it is. You know, one of the other questions that I have for you, I think about college students and whether their degrees are relevant, whether the coursework is still relevant. I mean, because there's a lot of debt that goes along with these college education. And so I'm cognizant of the fact that I don't want to saddle today's students with all this debt and then get them into a situation where their education is no longer relevant. And you have 35 years in education. You're serving as the dean in the School of Law at California Southern University. So how do you ensure that your courses are relevant for these students who are entering the workforce now, and that all of those academic objectives are actually met?
Well, here's the thing. College doesn't prepare you for the workforce, and college doesn't prepare you for life. That is just the reality. College prepares you for your exams, for the curriculum, for it upholds the tradition. It's the stepping stone. Things are definitely shifting in large part because of the debt load. I went to law school. I walked away with $157,000 in debt for just law school.
Wow.
And that was over 20 years ago. So there is a shift to the self-education revolution. There is a shift into more practical knowledge. There is a shift away from pedigree in many industries. I will say law is not one of them. There are certain industries that pedigree is always going to matter. So if you are in law, if you're in medicine, if you're wanting to get a PhD and be a researcher, you want to go into those kind of areas, pedigree matters. That, like, it hasn't shifted away from that yet. You still need that college degree, and it still needs to be from a prestigious school. Beyond that, it's a means to the next level. It's a means to getting your foot in the door. It's a means to maybe ascending the ladder in some other industries. But it is not the same end all be all that it used to be, because in large part, the textbooks are not updated all the time. The curriculum lags. I mean, you cannot tell me that what you are learning today at a traditional 4-year institution has caught up with all the changes that have happened in the world since COVID. It's impossible for the curriculum to stay relevant and current at an undergrad level. Now, once you get into a grad level and you're dealing more outside of textbooks and maybe more in journal articles or online, and those become your sources, that's a little bit different. But by and large, the undergraduate education does not prepare you for the real world or the workforce. Everything that you learn in school, once you get on the job, you're gonna be like, wait, they didn't teach me this. This was not in my textbook. So, internships are valuable. Those kind of experiences, get in there, volunteer, get an internship, get some practical experience under your belt, because that's where your real education is going to take place.
I agree. Let's talk a little bit more about resiliency, especially after the last couple of years during this pandemic. That's got to be one of the most important characteristics that students need to be successful right now at the moment. So what are the 4 keys to creating and maintaining an impervious mind?
Absolutely. Resiliency is key. Guys, you need to be flexible and adaptable. You need to be able to pivot on a dime. The world is constantly evolving, and it's evolving at an even at a more accelerated pace, right? We saw that in COVID. The amount of change that has happened in the last 2 years is astronomical. And so if there's one thing that we've learned throughout the pandemic, it's to be flexible and to be able to pivot. So how do we create and maintain that impervious mind? Number 1, you've got to control your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. When you learn to control the controllables, when you learn to control your own ecosystem, then you're going to be able to stay the course. You are not going to be subject to the ebbs and flows of what happens externally. You're not going to get knocked off course. You're not going to be thrown into uncertainty or overwhelm or depression or things like that when you can control your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and your focus. Again, like we talked about earlier, that's a muscle that you can develop. It's a practice. So it's a choice in every moment. And it's okay if you make a mistake. It's okay if you read the news and, get upset and then say, oh, wait. What can I control? What can I do about this right now? Oh, I can't control anything about that. So let me shift my focus and you come back into alignment, you get recentered. You are able then to continue on with the things that move the needle for you toward your goals, toward your dreams, toward your vision, toward your hopes, toward your health, your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. So super important. Choose empowering language. And people say, oh yeah, how does that help? Well, like we talked about earlier, the language that we use creates a biochemical response. You can see that if somebody says, oh, how are you? And you say, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. Oh my God, I've got so much to do. I need to do this, that, and the other, and I'm not prepared, and there's no way I can get everything done, and I didn't sleep last night, blah, 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 blah. And when you go down that rabbit hole, you notice right away, your breathing is more shallow, your heart rate elevates, there's a weight and a heaviness on your chest. You start to feel more overwhelmed. So the language that you use becomes your reality. Conversely, if someone says, how are you doing? How's your day? And you're like, today is the best day of my life. It is so awesome. I am kicking butt. You know, everything is falling into place. You'll notice there's a lightness. There's a positive energy. The words that you use release the corresponding chemicals, which affects your physiological state. So the first thing, again, control your thoughts, feelings, emotions, control your focus, choose empowering language, assign empowering meanings to things. It doesn't change what happened. So, you know, everything that's ever happened in my life, I can't change what's happened. It's happened. I was abused, raped, domestic violence, homelessness, cancer, all the things. But I have two choices. I can look at those as those things happened to me and I'm a victim of those, or I can choose an empowering perspective and say life happens for me. And each and every one of those things was an incredible opportunity to explore, to grow, to learn, and now I get the honor and privilege of taking how I've navigated each of those and sharing it and helping other people. It's totally different perspective. Doesn't change what happened.
Right.
But change how I use what's happened. And again, when I choose empowering language and empowering meanings, and I find the good in things and I choose an empowering perspective, I also get the corresponding physiological biochemical benefits of that. And I'm able in a good state to make clear decisions. I'm able in that empowered, strong, centered state to create and maintain a resilient mind, an impervious mind, to not be swayed and knocked off course by the external.
Wow, I'm empowered just listening to you, man. That's powerful stuff.
And I would say that the last big piece of that is gratitude.
Yeah.
Practice gratitude. And notice I said practice gratitude, because sometimes you got to find the things to be grateful for. But gratitude is such a powerful emotion, because when you find things to be grateful for, and that can be as simple as, oh, I have feet that can feel the floor, because guess what? Not everybody does. Oh, I have legs that allow me to get out of bed and stand. Guess what? Because not everybody does. I have food in the refrigerator. I have a refrigerator. I have a roof over my head. I have a bed to sleep in. I have a blanket that keeps me warm. I have air conditioning. I have running water. I have a toilet that flushes and indoor plumbing. Like, there's so many things that we have to be grateful for that so many of us take for granted.
Yeah.
But when we can focus on gratitude, gratitude is an incredibly powerful force. It's also a good pattern interrupt. So when you're feeling yourself overwhelmed or spiraling down the rabbit hole, stop and think of 3 things to be grateful for.
Yeah, that's really great. Hopefully they'll practice that every single day, because you're right. It is important to get into that habit, and I think it grounds us a little bit. And, you know, one other question I really wanted to ask you, productivity is really difficult for our student leaders right now. They're being pulled in a million different directions. They've got work, they've got their fraternity or sorority, they've got class assignments, they've got sports, they've got a relationship, they've got families. So what are some hacks that they can use to get more done in less time?
chunk your time and control your focus. Those are the two biggest things. When we try to multitask, we actually slow ourselves down. There's all kinds of studies on it now that when our focus is divided, it takes us longer to get things done. If you say, okay, I'm going to take 30 minutes, a good focused 30 minutes, I'm going to put away my phone, I'm going to close the extra tabs, and in that 30 minutes, I'm going to write this paper for class. And that is all you do in that 30 minutes. You do nothing else. And then at the end of that 30 minutes, whether you're done with your paper or not, if there's something else you need to do, you could say, okay, now I'm going to take 5 minutes and I'm going to get up, I'm going to get something to drink, I'm going to get a snack, I'm going to use the restroom. And when I come back, I'm going to spend 15 minutes answering emails. And you sit down and for 15 minutes, all you're doing is answering emails. And then you say, okay, now I'm going to go take care of my physical body. So I'm going to hit the gym for 45 minutes. And when you're at the gym, that's when you can listen to an inspiring podcast like this, or an audiobook, or your favorite playlist, something that is nourishing your mind or nourishing your soul. That's a way to take advantage of what's called net time. No extra time. It's how can you layer in something in those moments. Then when you come back from the gym, maybe you're taking 15 minutes to take a shower, reset, hydrate, get a snack, and then you're going to spend 30 minutes studying for a particular class. And you put your phone away, you close all the other tabs, and that is all you do in that 30 minutes. One thing at a time for focused sprints.
Great tips. I absolutely love it. We should talk about self-care too, because I think that's extremely important as well. And sometimes, like you kind of are suggesting here, you have to take time to choose you. So how do we say no to things and not feel guilty about that?
Oh, that one is so hard, especially when you're in college, going back to, wanting to be like, but here's the thing. If you are burnt out, if you are overwhelmed, you're no good to anybody. If you don't take time to refuel yourself, you've got nothing left to give. If you're exhausted, if you're wiped out, your grades are gonna suffer, your relationships are gonna suffer, you're not gonna get anything done. It's just a hot mess. So when you understand that, and you understand that actually the most important thing that you can do is create healthy boundaries for yourself. Choose you, prioritize you, say yes to the things that move the needle in the direction of your dreams. Say yes to the things that serve you. Say no to everything else. If it doesn't align with you, if it doesn't serve you, say no. That creates the space for you to nourish yourself, your relationships, to thrive in your classes, to thrive in your relationships, and to stay aligned. Yeah. So create those boundaries and then toe the line.
Yeah, so hard for the student leaders who are listening right now. I'm sure they're like presidents of their fraternity or sorority, and they're like, you want me to say no? I've built a career on saying yes to everything. But I think you're right. If they have nothing left to give, then ultimately they're not serving the organization very well. And we see a lot of that burnout. One other thing that I think about too is there are some changes that I think all fraternity and sorority members would acknowledge that, will need to happen. I think about things like sexual assault prevention and hazing prevention and alcohol and drug abuse prevention, for example. But we often hesitate to make changes in fraternity and sorority because of tradition. Our organizations are over 100 years old, and this has been working for 100 years. If we want to talk about hazing, for example, our new members have been hazed, and this is what happened to me. So I'm going to do it to the next person. And we sometimes we don't stop because we're concerned about what other people in the group are going to think about us if we suddenly stand up and say, well, we're no longer doing mental or physical abuse to somebody. So what are some things that students can do to create change instead of just sitting back and waiting for change to happen?
Yeah, that's another one that's tough because nothing changes if nothing changes. period. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to live with you, and you have to live with your conscience, and you have to face yourself in the mirror. And if you didn't like it when it was done to you, then can you really live with doing it to someone else? If you remember the pain that you felt, if you remember the humiliation that you felt, if you remember the embarrassment that you felt, if you remember the anguish that you felt, how can you do that to someone else and face you? So as difficult as it is to say no or to speak up, you have to check your own conscience and see what you're okay with. I was in a sorority and I did speak up, because at the end of the day, I have to live with me. And so finding your voice, standing up, speaking up, collaborating. You don't have to affect change on your own.
Right.
So collaborating.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other people in the organization that feel the same way that you do, but it's a matter of having those one-on-one conversations to say, I'm not really comfortable with what they're planning over there. Is there something else that we can substitute maybe that's not hazing? Having those conversations, I think, one-on-one, and building those allies before having the big conversation with the whole sorority, that might be a way that we can get to, that end solution. And you're right. I mean, I think it's about, taking ownership of the organization. We might say, well, I'm just a freshman. The organization, maybe people don't really care what I think, but the reality is that organization belongs as much to you as a freshman as it does the super senior who is, chapter president right now. It's your organization. You're wearing the same letters across your chest. So you got to take ownership of that. And that's a reflection of you. Whatever happens in that organization, whether we like that or we don't, ultimately you're going to get lumped in with, whatever happens to this organization. And so you really need to be asking yourself, is that really what I want for me? Because that organization is a reflection of you.
Yeah. And there's a pride in the organization. Are the current actions of the organization reflective of who you want to be and what the organization can be? Yeah. And just because we've all been hazed, does it have to really be that way? Or is there a different way of bringing people into the group? Is there a different way of interacting? Do we want to interact with ridicule and brutality, or do we want to interact with respect and kindness and compassion? How do we want the organization to show up in the world? Yeah. And on campus?
Yeah, that's a great point. I've really liked this conversation. I think this has been a lot of fun. And I have to tell you, I do love good food. And every now and then I do get out to LA, I get out to Orange County. I mean, these are some of my most favorite places, in the country, because it's beautiful. I mean, it's just hands down gorgeous. So what is your favorite restaurant out there on the West Coast? So that way, the next time I'm speaking in a West Coast school, I can go and check that place out.
I love Gracias Madre. And they have several locations out here. It's vegan, but you would never know. It's so interesting and delicious and flavorful and amazing. It's not flavor combinations that you can get just anywhere, and everything is divine. So good.
I'm going to go and check that out. I can't wait. I've never been there, so I can't wait to check it out. This has been so much fun. All right. So if our listeners right now, if they want to contact you for speaking on their college campus, maybe they have some consulting work for you, coaching. I know a lot of them could really use that right now. Where's the best place for them to go and to connect with you?
Just shoot me an email. It's Ellie@ellieshefi.com. So just reach out.
There you go. So it's Ellie, E-L-L-I-E, Shefi, S-H-E-F-I. So Ellie at ellieshefi.com, right? Is that
Absolutely.
right? All right, I got it right. Perfect. Well, Ellie, it has been so much fun spending some time with you today. I really appreciate it. I know your words are going to be so helpful to college students all across the country. So thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's been such a joy and a pleasure.
Oh, well, thanks so much. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Ellie Shefi, I want you to like it. I want you to share it with other college students, other fraternity members, sorority members. And we hope to see you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.